While I was filming this video, I didn't realize it would turn out to be the last day of summer. Makes it all the more special. Also, because this was the virus year, I didn't go anywhere, and I spent far more time than usual amongst these trees and with all the wildlife that lives with them. It actually turned out to be really great. I loved it, saw things I've never seen before. Well, hello, and welcome to one of my favourite places in the world, the field I grow Christmas trees in. I think I have something of a sausages and ice cream sort of business lifestyle, in that once I left full-time work, I tend to do Christmas trees and wood fires in the winter and gold prospecting in the summer. Anyway, I've talked about burning spruce, Norway spruce, from time to time, and I thought that won't make any sense unless you see where the spruce come from and why it's important to me. Let me show you where we are to start with. Over here are a couple of caravans. I really did think at one time that I might be living up here. I've always had a soft spot for caravans. I think that comes of living in one when I was really young. When I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, my parents lived in a caravan with me in the west of Wales, in Pembrokeshire. A really, really beautiful place to grow up. Being fairly free now, self-employed, playing about with the gold, the Christmas trees and fires, I love having places that I can hide up and have a sleep from time to time. I come here if it's raining and to watch wildlife from the window. One memory haunts me from that time in Pembrokeshire. We were really poor, and my father brought a gorse bush home to be our Christmas tree. My mother wanted me to help her dress it with cotton wool, and I refused. I was a stubborn little brat, and I felt bad about that ever since. I rent the field from a really lovely farmer called Trevor, and I think all the wildlife in the field is partly his doing, because he never overcut his hedges, so everything that was living in the fabulous hedges around this field has now migrated into it for me to enjoy, and for everyone else. I think a nice thing is all the wildlife in this field will now migrate out into the wider countryside. It's like an oasis of life. I really love it. The other thing, to make it more homely, I planted quite a lot of apple trees and a few plums and damsons. This one's pretty special. This is a Pitmarston pineapple. The apples are great and supposed to taste of pineapple in a really good year. However, I've actually never noticed that. This tree is a Peasgood nonsuch, but amazingly, one apple this year. One. A bit disappointing. Anyway, I'll show you the trees. I got 4 or 5 species out here. Traditional Norway spruce, the Nordmann fir that loads of people seem to like now, a few pines, Scots pines, and 2 new ones. I've got the Colorado blue spruce, and I've got a load of little Serbian spruce. I'll show you those. I've just stopped because sometimes the village school's woodland club come out in the Christmas tree field here, and the last time they were out with me, the field was so full of giant puffballs. There's still a few left over from where we were playing with them and looking at them and studying them. And I'm sorry about all the wind noise. It turned out the last day of summer was a really windy one. Okay, so let's actually have a look at the Christmas trees I'm growing. First, I'm in an area of Norway Spruce. That's the one that's traditional in Britain, the one I grew up with when I wasn't getting gorse bushes. Foliage is a bit spiky, but the most important thing is to give it water. Don't take it into your home before you need it. And if the tree has water and it was bought fresh, it should hold its needles right through Christmas. I also love the smell of this one. For me, all Christmassy. That's interesting. A load of rooks using a thermal. In one of the fields beside this Christmas tree field, I once counted about 5,000 rooks that seemed to be busy eating seed corn. Can't imagine the damage they did. Anyway, this is the Nordman fir. Very, very popular nowadays because even if it dries out, it should hold its foliage. The foliage will go brown but shouldn't fall off. It's also very soft. When the Woodland Club children are out here and I'm showing them the trees, I tell them that this one, the foliage feels like spaniel's ears. They really like that sort of thing. And next we have Serbian Spruce. Another spruce, so it needs water. But I really like this because the top is dark green and the underneath is this lovely silver grey. I'm growing a few hundred of these now, so I hope other people like them. When I first started growing these blues, I wasn't sure how well they'd sell, but people seem to really love them. And I think what I really like is the variety. Every tree has different characteristics. Every tree has to be grown and nurtured differently. And that makes this job so interesting. Wow, spiky. And the blues I'm referring to there are Colorado blue spruce. Spectacular tree, really sharp. And here's Scots pine. Native of Great Britain. Two-needled pine. Very soft foliage. I don't grow these that much. There isn't a huge market for them, but the biggest problem for me is if they need pruning, you've got to do it in June. And I'm mostly away gold prospecting in June. One problem I've had growing these trees is wood pigeons love to land on that long lead shoot on the tree, the high bit. The pigeons land on it and break them. So I've grown some bigger trees with a perch for the pigeons and somewhere to nest just above it. It's curious since I'm helping a pest species, but ever since I started doing this, I've had almost no pigeon damage. There's another thing. These pigeon lollipop trees, as we call them, are also where I get bits of resin, spruce resin, to make my cone firelighters. It was doing this that I learned that a little bit of this resin squeezed in a firelighting cone really makes it burn better and hotter. Anyway, just another nice thing to do in the trees. Another thing I do is leave tall posts, sort of obviously trees that died or were lollipops and we've cut the top off, and they too are pigeon roosts, and as you can see, the trees around them, the leaders are not broken, and of course there's a selfish thing here, those posts eventually, when they're no use, I turn them into firewood, and that's where my spruce firewood comes from. Rubbish, I know, but anything will do within reason when you've got a wood burner. Another problem in the trees is deer damage. I've got red deer, muntjac deer, and roe deer, and this is roe deer damage. They've absolutely wrecked this tree. But the option is trying to fence them out, which is enormously expensive. They've wrecked that tree as well. That's a little Nordman. They fray with horns and just sort of rub scent marking, knocking velvet off, whatever. Ooh, that's a different one. That is a red deer has just taken a bite. Funny enough, not too bad. The tree will mend from that. But if ever you buy a tree and there's one of those in it, that's a red deer bite. The other thing is, if a native, this is an ash, if it's not in my way, I let it grow. Because I'm happy to see a few of these giving a dappled shade from the Christmas trees. But the deer don't leave these alone either. That, I think, is roe deer damage again. Lastly, drought. I am worried growing Christmas trees on sandy land, whether the droughts we're getting at the minute are going to put an end to it. That dead tree there died in 2018. I mean, that was the horrendous drought for me, and I think many places 2018. I lost over 1,000 trees. But 2020 wasn't so good either. I lost quite a few young trees. I probably lost about 300 trees this spring. This is 2020. Anyway, we came up with something novel to put little watering hoops around the young, and that really seems to be working. Anyway, enough of the commercial stuff. Let's have a look at the wildlife. Starting with birds. I have found 16, 17 species nesting in the hedges and amongst the trees. And then, of course, a whole load of other species visit the site, like barn owls, tawny owls, kestrels, and sparrowhawks. Although I suppose none of those nesting species will be very pleased about the sparrowhawks. Again, thanks to Trevor letting the hedges develop, there are some lovely surprises. Like this is a wild damson, perfectly ripe. There are sloes as well, but you won't catch me eating those. Okay, so let's have a look at the plants, which are really important to me. I've listed the ones that, I don't know, just catch my fancy. I like the names: Sweet Sicily, Dark Mullion, Dame's Violet, Goat's Beard. They're just great. You know, they make it more interesting to be in the field, and they really help with biological control. I do get aphids on the Christmas tree sometimes, and having all these other plants, it brings in a lot of insects, particularly hoverflies. Got a lovely patch of teasel here. I might come back later and watch goldfinches feeding on these. Of all the plants growing here, perhaps the one I never expected was grapevines. This isn't my doing, I never eat grapes in the field, but here they are. I wonder if they'll ever produce a vine for me. The sloes are really good this year, good for sloe gin, but this hawthorn, I don't think I ever remember seeing hawthorn so heavy. That'll help the birds in winter. I know it seems that I spend a lot of time wandering about and doing nothing in these videos, but I guess most of the time I'm busy, but the important thing, for me anyway, is finding time to relax. I might be out here even for 12 hours sometimes, but why not have a few half hours or even hours to have some lunch, watch some wildlife, some butterflies, listen to birdsong, or even just have a sleep, which is what's calling me at the minute, but I really do have to get on with the weeding. If you ever need a mower for a job like this is the best we've had. Over the 20 years we've been growing Christmas trees in this field, I've had several different mowers, but this one does the job better than any of the others. And actually, it's really good fun to ride. The steering is unique. It's getting late in the day and I decided to take the dried pigeon posts home with me. Even though I didn't know it was the last day of summer, the posts were dry and I knew it was bound to rain sooner or later, so let's get them into the store. Well, I have had a really lovely day. The sun's shone, it's been hot. I've made this film, which I really enjoy, and I've also done a fair bit of work. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really mean that. Thank you for watching. This is probably the longest video I'll ever make, so thank you for your patience, and it's been great to share this day with you.